We're going to jump in the middle of the call of Moses. Just one verse in Exodus 4 to kind of set the tone here, or at least set the message. If you recall, Moses is going back and forth with God. God's appeared in the burning bush. We talked about this a month ago or so. God's appeared in the burning bush. He's called over Moses, and so there's this really long call story because for everything God says, Moses has a response. And so right in the middle of that, verse 16 of Exodus 4, God's talking about Aaron because Moses is concerned because he's not a skilled speaker. We don't know why. We don't know if he had a stutter or a speech impediment of some other sort. We have no idea. Or maybe he just wasn't a good presenter. And so about Aaron, God says, he shall speak for you to the people. And then God says this about Aaron, and he shall be your mouth, and you, Moses, shall be as God to him. That's a pretty big statement, don't you think? He'll be your voice, but you'll be as God to him. And I got to thinking about this week and came up with this question to myself, but I'll share it with the rest of you. If God made Moses as God to Aaron, and Aaron was the front man for all of Israel, you with me so far? God made Moses as God to Aaron, and Aaron was the front man for all of Israel. How do you think Israel saw Moses? Aaron probably spent more time with Israel, did he not? Because Moses was often attending a meeting or Moses was up the mountain. And we're talking about the guy Moses who, remember, he comes down the mountain. What's going on with his face, with his countenance? Do you remember that? It's just shining brightly, so brightly. Why? Because he's been in the presence of God. So if God made Moses as God to Aaron, and Aaron was a big shot in Israel, what did Israel think about Moses? How did they see Moses? We'll come back to that in a moment. Glenn Pemberton has written several books, primarily about the Psalms. Pemberton is a guy who was just living life, teaching, I think working in ministry as well, and around staying in shape. He's a runner, or was. And he developed a pain in his foot. I think he said this is 05 or 06. Develops this pain in his foot and keeps running. And if you run, you get pain in your feet. Sometimes the only time it doesn't hurt is when? It's when you're actually running, right? It's when your body warms up. So he ends up going to the doctor, and he's got this stress fracture in his foot. And he's thinking, what goofy person I am. I've been running with a broken foot. So they did a surgery. And by the next year and a half, he was on his 5th surgery. And now he lives with constant pain that no one can figure out. His whole life is, he wakes up and it's pain all day long. And so he has a particular insight. He's not the only person in the world, obviously, and probably a lot of people in this room who suffer similarly. But he has a particular insight into the Psalms, in my opinion, and especially the Psalms of Lament. And in his book, Hurting with God, he says this about the psalmists and the laments. The psalmists do not pause to offer a descriptive answer to what we should or should not say to God. But if there is a line in the sand marking how far a person may be honest with God, they leap across it with abandon. If the problem is their sin, these poets say it. If the trouble lies with others, they bring it to God. And if the issue regards God, they refuse to be silent just because it is God. Rather, when the problem is God, they not only must speak, they dare not exercise such caution that their speech becomes a ridicule of truthful conversation. As God's covenant partners, they ask difficult questions and make harsh accusations, and if you've never read the Psalms of Lament, I encourage you to do so. You will see this. They do not lack fear of God. It is because of their reverence and their relationship with God that they dare not engage in half-truths, dance around hidden thoughts, or suppress their feelings. They know that God will not stand for two-faced flattery. For these psalmists, either God is an intimate friend to whom we speak our true thoughts and feelings, or God, in fact, is no friend at all. The psalmists reject the false reverence of silence and dare to live in the relationship to which God has called them, accusing, challenging, and questioning God about God. I want us to keep in mind that thought about Israel and Aaron and Moses. If God made Moses as God to Aaron, and Aaron was such a big shot in Israel, how did Israel see Moses? So we fast forward in the Exodus story just a little bit. Exodus 14. When Pharaoh drew near, the people of Israel lifted up their eyes, and behold, the Egyptians were marching after them. And they feared greatly. And the people of Israel cried out to the Lord. They said to Moses, did you notice? Did you hear what the text said? The people of Israel cried out to Jehovah God. They cried out to the Lord. And how did they do that? By speaking to Moses. Is it because there are no graves in Egypt that you've taken us away to die in the wilderness? What have you done to us in bringing us out of Egypt? Is this not what we said to you in Egypt? Quote, leave us alone that we may serve the Egyptians. For it would have been better for us to serve the Egyptians than to die in the wilderness. And Moses said to the people, fear not, stand firm, and see the salvation of the Lord, which he will work for you today. For the Egyptians whom you see today, you shall never see again. The Lord will fight for you, and you have only to be silent. The Lord said to Moses, why do you cry to me? Tell the people of Israel to go forward. Lift up your staff and stretch out your hand over the sea and divide it, that the people of Israel may go through the sea on dry ground. And I will harden the hearts of the Egyptians so that they shall go in after them, and I will get glory over Pharaoh and all his hosts, his chariots and his horsemen. And the Egyptians shall know that I am the Lord, when I have gotten glory over Pharaoh, his chariots, and his horsemen. Then the angel of God, who was going before the host of Israel, moved and went behind them. God's getting in between his people and their oppressors, their pursuers. And the pillar of cloud moved from before them and stood behind them, coming between the host of Egypt and the host of Israel, in case we weren't getting the visual. And there was the cloud and the darkness, and it lit up the night without one coming near the other all night. One more verse. Then Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and the Lord drove the sea back by a strong east wind all night and made the sea dry land, and the waters were divided. Last week when Stacy and Ty and I and many other people were at that Celebration of Life service, Paul, for that little girl, one of the grandfathers spoke, which I thought was incredible. And I told him, I said, I'm going to use what you said. He said, I'm probably going to use it next Sunday. And he thought that was great. He was talking about a morning not too long ago where he got up and he had this epiphany. And it was 4 words. It's a question that we often ask. It's a question that these Israelites were asking. They didn't use these exact words, but you'll see it in their words. And the question goes like this: what is God doing? You ever asked that before? You look around, maybe it's in your life, maybe it's in the life of someone you know. Maybe it's just in the world in general. Just things are transpiring, and we reach this moment, maybe like these Israelites, where we ask that question, what is God doing? And before I say what he said next, let me say this. That is a healthy question asked out of faith. It is. It's a healthy question to ask God, what are you doing? But what this Grandpa Scott went on to say is he said, you can take those middle two words in that question and you can turn them around. Actually, he did his fingers that way. I can't do my fingers that way, but he turned those two words around, reversed them. And he said, what God is doing. What is God doing? The question, what God is doing is sight that comes from faith. Did you notice that language here in the Exodus 14 reading? When Moses, verse 13, says to the people, this is after them effectively asking, what is God doing? Because they cried out to the Lord, but they did it toward Moses. What is God doing? Well, Moses invites them to watch. He says, be still. Be still, because the Lord's about to do something. And so he says, verse 13, for instance, he says, fear not, stand firm and what? See. Yeah, fear not, stand firm and see the salvation of the Lord. And then the next sentence, for the Egyptians whom you see today, you will never see again. And then Moses and God are having a brief conversation. God gives Moses instructions. Take your staff, raise up your arm and divide the water. And God causes that east wind to blow all night. And guess what the Israelites got to do? They got to see what God is doing in an incredible way. You know, some things go together in life really, really well. PB&J, right? No, not much of an argument there probably. Although Bo would probably say PB and anything, right, Dad? Milk and cookies. Jack, ice cream and anything. Probably more ice cream. Donnie and Marie, Abbott and Costello, but also Psalm 125, which Mason read a little bit of. Psalm 125 and another story we read recently, 2 Kings 6, go together very, very well. Once when the king of Syria was warring against Israel, he took counsel with his servants, saying, at such and such a place shall be my camp. But the man of God sent word to the king of Israel, beware that you do not pass this place, for the Syrians are going down there. And the king of Israel sent to the place about which the man of God told him. Thus he used to warn him, so that he saved himself there more than once or twice. I always feel like I need to explain this just to make it clear what's going on. The king of Syria, let's just call him the enemy king, is making plans to raid Israel, which was a fairly common thing. But Elisha, who is the man of God, he is the prophet of God, Elisha knows. And so Elisha is passing on the information to the king of Israel, and like the text just said, he got saved more than one time. This has happened more than once. And the mind of the king of Syria was greatly troubled because of this thing. And he called his servants and said to them, will you not show me who of us is for the king of Israel? So who's leaking, right? Who's leaking info to the other side? And one of his servants said, none, my lord, O king, but Elisha, the prophet who is in Israel, tells the king of Israel the words that you speak in your bedroom. And he, this would be the king of Syria, said, go and see where he is, that I may send and seize him. It was told him, behold, he is in Dothan. So he sent their horses and chariots and a great army. And they came by night and surrounded the city. So everybody's with us so far in the story. We got the gist. When the servant of the man of God, not Elisha, but when Elisha's servant, the servant of the man of God, rose early in the morning and went out, behold, an army with horses and chariots was all around the city. And the servant said, Alas, my master, what shall we do? And I think we can rephrase that just a little bit, right? Alas, my master, what is God doing? What is it that God's doing? What are we going to do to get out of this? How has this been allowed to happen? How, as the man of God and me, his humble servant, how have we found ourselves in this situation? What in the world is God up to? And Elisha answered, he said, Do not be afraid, for those who are with us are more than those who are with them. Then Elisha prayed and said, O Lord, please open his eyes so that he may see. So the Lord opened the eyes of the young man, and he saw. And behold, the mountain was full of horses and chariots of fire all around Elisha. Joshua chapter 1. I know there are a lot of folks in here who are big Joshua fans, and rightly so. How did Joshua learn his trade, by the way? Watching Moses. Yes, watching Moses interact with God. So right at the beginning of the story, we've just seen Elisha, who was confident that God would be present, or that God was present. After the death of Moses, verse 1 of chapter 1 of Joshua, the servant of the Lord said to Joshua, the son of Nun, Moses' assistant, Moses, my servant, is dead. It's quite the eulogy, isn't it, by the way? Moses, my servant, is dead. Can we close in prayer? Now, therefore, arise, go over this Jordan, you and all this people, into the land that I am giving to them, to the people of Israel. Every place that the sole of your foot will tread upon, I've given you, just as I promised to Moses. From the wilderness and this Lebanon as far as the great river, the river Euphrates, all the land of the Hittites to the great sea, toward the going down of the sun shall be your territory. No man shall be able to stand before you all the days of your life. Just as I was with Moses, so I will be with you. I will not leave you or forsake you. Be strong and courageous, for you shall cause this people to inherit the land that I swore to their fathers to give them. Only be strong and very courageous, being careful to do according to all the law Moses, my servant, commanded you. Do not turn from it to the right hand or to the left, that you may have good success wherever you go. Of course, by the time we get to, was it chapter 6 or chapter 7, they've turned to the right and to the left. This book of the law shall not depart from your mouth, but you shall meditate on it day and night, so that you may be careful to do according to all that is written in it. Then you will make your way prosperous, and then you will have good success. Have I not commanded you? God concludes. Be strong and courageous. Do not be frightened. Do not be dismayed, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. So Elisha was confident that God's presence was there. Joshua, as if you continue to read through this amazing story about the life and ministry of Joshua, Joshua as well is confident in the presence of God. But I want to say something here, and it's this: confidence and concern are not incompatible. It's not that I have to either be confident or I have to lack confidence. There's no gray area in between. I have to be confident, which means I can't be concerned about anything. I can't have any worry or anxiety about anything, or else I have zero confidence. No, confidence and concern are perfectly compatible with one another. Again, go back to the Psalms. Read Psalm 22 sometime, the one Jesus quotes, at least that small portion from the cross. My God, why have you forsaken me? Why are you so far from the words of my groaning? Day and night I cry out to you, and on it goes. But in just a couple verses in, where does the psalm turn? It turns to faith and recognition that God is present. So concern and confidence are perfectly compatible with one another. Hebrews 13, starting in verse 1. Let brotherly love continue. We're coming to the end here of the book of Hebrews. There's really one or two phrases in here I want us to see. Do not neglect to show hospitality to strangers, for thereby some have entertained angels unawares. Remember those who are in prison as if in prison with them. And those who are mistreated, since you also are in the body. A lot of sermons in this reading, by the way. Let marriage be held in honor among all. And let the marriage bed be undefiled, for God will judge the sexually immoral and adulterous. Keep your life free from love of money. And be content with what you have, for he has said. And when the writer of Hebrews says this, he knows that God has said this many, many, many times. For God has said, I will never leave you nor forsake you. And then he concludes, so we can confidently say, the Lord is my helper. I will not fear. What can man do to me? Sometimes personally I feel like Elisha in that moment. You ever have that moment where just the confidence meter's trying to bust out the top, if that makes sense? Other times I feel like the servant or the Israelites saying, why didn't God just leave us? What are you doing? If you'd have left us in Egypt, wouldn't be great, but it'd be a lot better than this. So what are you up to? Sometimes I feel like them as well, but usually I'm that guy in between. Can you relate? I'm that guy that's somewhere in between. I'm confident that God's present, but not necessarily sure I can see what he's up to. But throughout human history, God has promised over and over again. And how many promises has God broken, by the way? 0. He has promised, I will be with you. Psalm 139. O Lord, you have searched me and know me. You know when I sit down and when I rise up. You discern my thoughts from afar. What's one word, by the way, that can describe this reading? Presence. Faithful presence. That's 2 words. You search out my path and my lying down and are acquainted with all my ways. Even before a word is on my tongue, behold, O Lord, you know it altogether. You hem me in behind and before. That's reminiscent of that Exodus reading, isn't it? You hem me in behind and before and lay your hand upon me. Such knowledge is too wonderful for me. It is high. I cannot attain it. Where shall I go from your spirit? The answer to this is nowhere. Or where shall I flee from your presence? The answer to that is nowhere. If I ascend to heaven, you're there. If I make my bed in Sheol, you're there. If I take the wings of the morning and dwell in the uttermost parts of the sea, even there your hand shall lead me. Your right hand shall hold me. If I say, surely the darkness shall cover me, and the light about me be night, even the darkness is not as dark to you. The night is bright as the day, for darkness is as light with you. For you form my inward parts. You knitted me together in my mother's womb. I praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Wonderful are your works. My soul knows it very well. My frame was not hidden from you when I was being made in secret, intricately woven in the depths of the earth. Your eyes saw my unformed substance. In your book were written, every one of them, the days that were formed for me, when as yet there was none of them. How precious to me are your thoughts, O God. How vast is the sum of them. If I would count them, they are more than the sand. I awake, and I am still with you. The psalmist says simply, God is present from beginning to end. God is present from beginning to end. And sometimes I think we need to look in the mirror and say that to ourselves. I know I do. God is present from beginning to end. What we need to do is open our eyes and look to see what it is in our world, in our orbit, and in the greater world, what God is doing. Open our eyes, Lord.